What can you say about the PvP conditions that currently exist and how CAT might be able to figure into these?
It is probably the most controversial thing that happened this week in the whole city. First of all, I think there's this current meta right now around like Instadumping. How do you prevent Instadumping? How do you give the community some there's not Instadumping? How do you provide alternative to sniping? You can't prevent sibling. What can you do to ensure that you have a white team that they want? How do you kind of reflect the team allocations properly? How do you kind of align the incentives for the team, for the LPs to stay in the game versus just locking it? How does people get in the LP early on and lock it early on in order to actually achieve that alignment? If you don't actually know what happens to tokens at the point of mint,
At the genesis, when the token is created,
then it becomes very difficult. When distributions doesn't happen appropriately at the point of genesis, it's actually very hard to work on. But these are all the mechanics that we're working on.
If you want a more fair game, if you want a game that has more levels of trust in it, you kind of got to set up the rules in such a way that they inherently kind of breed that trust, right? That they bring that certainty, that alignment, and some of that transparency. And I think some of the mechanics here they're not common in the space right now, and hopefully they can start to become more common as we go forward.
There's always going to be infinite ways to launch tokens. The point out, I think, for this case is that, okay, we want to kind of establish a set of mechanisms such that, okay, it becomes like very simple and obvious for projects to do these things. I want to address the biggest elephant in the room, which is the collaboration announced with the Agent 1 project. There are three things, right? Number one, the intention of it was to establish a sufficiently well-known project to kind of test these mechanics. And secondly, as part of the discussion, the projects actually agreed to a large number of things around like very clear allocations, heavy cliffs, no Instadumping, and also like long-term alignment, and the whole LP as well. The whole goal here was a test partner for the system. There's actually a lot of extremely strong feelings about it. So I'll say three things. The first thing I'll say is that the goal is to build a permissionless launchpad with mechanisms that actually enforce this thing by default. So the user can go in there and see for themselves what the game is, and decide you set it or not. The second thing is that I'm actually reading everything. It's impossible for me to respond at this point and make hasty decisions, but I'm reading everything. And thirdly, I'll say is that just give people a chance to read, to respond to accusations. I myself has been the beneficiary of second chances, where people gave me a second chance. I understand that it's very strong feelings about everything and stuff, and I really apologize. I really do. Okay, I really apologize for not being more clear that this is not endorsement. Our goal is to create the platform that anyone can use, and they will be able to set up their mechanics and the distribution in a way that gives the community a lot of certainty, demonstrate that alignment, and also have full transparency. I'm really sorry that our proposed first tester has created such a storm and overshadowed the point of this whole thing. And I'm also sorry that it came across as an endorsement. Okay, it's not.
Just to recap that here, not endorsing Asian Mom, the first tester of this kind of new platform. The idea is that, if you can design the game in such a way that anyone who is opting in to play by these rules, their intentions are already kind of proven by the fact that they are choosing these rules to play by, right? Like if you are choosing to enforce a fair distribution, if you are choosing to have transparent cliffs investing, if you're not able to dump because you don't have the tokens to do the dumping and your LP, your liquidity provisioning is actually locked. These are all ways that I think you can start to separate out people's intentions and like what they're capable of doing in practice. Because if you want a rug, you do it in a different way. You go launch a token the way that everybody else does, which is kind of in obscurity without any transparency at all.
One of the big reasons why we chose the first test partner is because they agreed on these things, like no Instadumping, long locks, very clear cliff and distribution vesting for partners, and lock LPs, like they don't get a single cent, the whole thing doesn't work. We have this new launchpad that we have certain ideas for it. And then we are looking for people that would want to try out these mechanics.
This does not guarantee that the token is successful or that the community is successful either, right? Like, I think really the goal with this whole kind of CAT approach is instead to kind of create the right ground conditions for a PvP community to be able to emerge, to help remove some of that uncertainty that otherwise happens. It's not guaranteeing success, but we're trying to kind of minimize the chances of, really bad actors acting in bad ways. People have obviously made their opinions known. Hopefully this brings some clarity to at least like what your thinking was behind the scenes here, that this is not an endorsement, that they were just going to use this kind of like as the initial tester. And it does not mean the conversation is over as well. If I'm not mistaken, there's going to be more conversation that happens.